Hey guys, it's Elizabeth with Wrung Designs. I figured I would just do a really quick video on a simpler tie-dye design that I like doing. I called it Hot Summer's Day. It's essentially just an ocean wave with the pearl and a sun. And it's pretty simple, but the trick is to keep the colors separate because otherwise the hot from the hot sun and the summer sky ends up mixing with the blue in the ocean. So it's kind of a nice way to show the skill level or the talent level in terms of not mixing it. And there's really just one trick. It's just how I put it in the aluminum pan, which is where I put the dye on, since I do an ice dye method. So yeah, I'll show that in the video too. And this is how I start it. The marker's almost out of ink, so you may or may not even be able to see it. For this one, I just use something with a circular bottom and I just trace it out. The only trick or special thing that I pay attention to for that is to just make sure that the placement is more on the upper chest, more up kind of by the shoulder, not right here. So, but since it's only one sun, it is what it is. I don't need to explain this. Proper placement is important. That's all I'm gonna say. So, yes, this is all, the design is drawn and I am ready to figure this out. Circles are pretty easy. I bet you guys can't see this. Circles are pretty easy. I just pinch it, in the middle. Make sure that the fabric's all flat and stretched evenly, and then I just pinch it in the middle and pull it up. And as long as you have both layers, you should basically have a really nice circle just from pinching it like that and pulling it up. And then I just put the rubber band on the line. And this is probably one of the most important bands in my opinion out of all. I would say two, but there's actually more that goes on here. So out of the two major rubber bands that go on here, these are the two that really amplified the design. So I really try to make sure that this rubber band gets really tight. Alright, to the ocean wave. It's basically just taking a line that might be curved or whatever shape and making it straight by manipulating the fabric. So, taking a curve is kind of easy. I try to not overcomplicate these shirts because then I might not enjoy doing it as much. And it's really not that complicated anyways. I normally make between a 1/2 inch to a 1/4 inch pleats depending on the design. So I've the two curves I have lined up and made that line into a straight line. So now I just have this crazy big curvy point that I need to straighten out and get matched up into that line. So I'm basically grabbing it on the point of the curve, on the wave, and I am manipulating that fabric and I am pushing it into place. And then I am taking these lines and I am pushing the line up above. So I'm trying to make a straight line out of a very not straight line. So, top part's looking pretty good. The bottom curve needs to be lined up. And that one's looking pretty good now too. Okay. So if you can see it, it's a rather straight line. For tie-dye, it's a rather straight line. It has just a little bit of manipulating I need to do. And then it's ready to put a band on it. A trick for keeping a straight line straight and a piece of fabric flat when you're folding it instead of it bowing, which you might see here in a second, is I'm going to squish the fabric down and like press all of those creases and those folds and compress them and pull the rubber band this way. So it's going to like, the rubber band's going to cinch it this way, and then I'm pushing it down to make sure that it doesn't fold in half. Like I said, it's a simple design, but there's a few tricks behind doing tie-dye. Okay, so I pulled it tight, but my line kind of curved, so I need to redo that. Like, I cinched it down really well, but I just feel like it wasn't quite accurate. So this is the moment that the fabric wants to like curve and like pop upwards like a mountain and not stay flat. Which, in all reality, maybe it wouldn't really change much if it did that. I'm not sure. But I don't want to give it a chance. I don't do that. So that was the third time around and it stayed rather flat. I'm gonna go ahead and call that good. So this bottom part is the ocean, and I'm going to crumple it all up. And then I'll have dark colors at the bottom, including a little bit of black, but mostly like medium blue, dark blue, and then like turquoise. And I do have robin's egg blue now too, so I'll put robin's egg blue right around this band. Yeah, you can. I think you have a water cup outside, buddy. So like I said, there is more than 2 rubber bands, but it's really just the main 2 for the design. All of this, I just end up crumpling it all up too. Crumpling it all up too. One thing I kind of like to do is I try to kind of pull the sun up because the yellows want to, let me rephrase that. I want the yellow dye to stay away from down here. I will have a little bit of yellow down here to kind of change, like, you know, the dye and the gradient and how it all blends together, but for the most part, I really want to make sure that no orange gets on this. And I kind of want to keep the yellow away from down here. So to to minimize that, I pull the sun up a little bit, and then it also will sometimes give it like a little bit of a sun ray streak because of the folding that's right there. To be honest, I don't normally pull these rubber bands as tight. I tend to have more of a highly saturated tie-dye versus something with a lot more white, which is a little ironic because in the beginning I always thought the bits of white were like the best thing ever, but when I have the bands be a little bit more loose, color and dye saturate the fabric more and you end up with less of the white. And to be honest, I feel like it ends up with shirts that are more painted versus looking more like a tie-dye. And I have started to kind of blend the line because with certain designs, I'll actually take a paintbrush with dye and I will trace like the outline, and it kind of blends the line in an interesting way, but I feel like it almost results with like a painting effect because you don't have the white from the rubber band lines, and it's kind of bittersweet. So I guess there's a preference within that, but I have started to have my bands a little bit less tight and it'll have more of a saturation with the color. So I'm going back to more of a tight rubber band effect and we'll see how that happens. So next up is the dye.